What's up, everybody? This is Tech G back with another video to help you successfully pass the CompTIA Security Plus 701 certification. So let's get into it. In this video, you're going to learn about threat actors, attributes of actors, motivations, and cyber warfare. All right, so let's talk about threat actors. So it is important to understand the types of attackers that you might encounter and their characteristics and personality traits. Now, keep in mind that these actors can find ways to access systems and networks just by searching the internet. And some attacks can be perpetrated by people with little knowledge of computers and technology. And threat actors, they typically have the intent to compromise the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of a system, often for personal, financial, or political gain. However, other actors have increased knowledge, and with knowledge comes power, and the type of power you want to be ready to handle. However, all levels of attackers can be dangerous, so we're going to go ahead and explore several of the actors right now. All right, so let's talk about the unskilled attacker. So an unskilled attacker has little or no technology skills and uses code that was written by others and is freely available on the internet. So for example, an unskilled attacker might copy a malicious PHP script directly from one site to another. Only the knowledge of how to copy and paste is required. Unskilled individuals are often referred to as script kiddies, and this derogatory term is often associated with juveniles, though the processes they use are simple. Unskilled attackers can knowingly and even unwittingly inflict incredible amounts of damage on insecure systems. And these people almost never have internal knowledge of a system and typically have a limited amount of resources, so the amount, sophistication, and extent of their attacks are constrained. They are often thrill seekers and are motivated by a need to increase their reputation in the hacking world. Next, we have what is called a hacktivist, and they get their name from a combination of the terms hack and activist. As with the term hacker, the name hacktivist is often applied to different kinds of activities, from hacking for social change to hacking to promote political agendas to full-blown cyber terrorism. And due to the ambiguity of the term, a hacktivist could be inside a company or could attack from the outside. And hacktivists have varying amounts of resources and funding. However, a hacktivist is usually far more competent than an unskilled attacker. Next, let's talk about cyber criminals and organized crime. So cyber criminals, they might work on their own, or they might be a part of a criminal syndicate. And organized crime, which is a centralized enterprise run by people motivated mainly by money. And individuals who are part of an organized crime group are often well-funded and may have a high level of sophistication. Next, let's talk about APTs, or advanced persistent threats. So individuals might also carry out cyber attacks for governments and nation states. In such cases, the government is known as an advanced persistent threat, or an APT, and a set of computer attacking processes can also be a part of an APT. Often an APT entity has the highest level of resources, including open source intelligence, or OSINT, and covert sources of intelligence. This, coupled with extreme motivation, makes an APT one of the most dangerous foes. In many cases, APTs are tied to nation-state actors. It is no longer taboo for governments to use cyber techniques as a method of warfare, and nation-state actors are often government-supported. They can use adversarial techniques to steal intellectual property, cause disruption, and potentially compromise critical infrastructure. Next, let's talk about the insider and competitor threats. So companies should be prepared for insiders and competitors as well. In fact, insiders and competitors might be one and the same. An insider threat refers to an individual within an organization who has authorized access to the organization's resources and information systems, which might enable them to exploit vulnerabilities or misuse data for malicious purposes. An insider threat can be one of the deadliest threats to servers and networks, especially if the person making the threat is a system administrator or has a security clearance at the organization. However, not all insiders are malicious. Next, let's talk about shadow IT. So think about the risks that shadow IT may introduce into a company. In shadow IT, an employee or a group of employees use IT systems, network devices, software, applications, and services without the approval of the corporate IT department. So for example, an engineer might deploy a physical or virtual server and host their own application on it. The engineer might not often patch or monitor that system for security vulnerabilities. Consequently, threat threat actors may be able to compromise the vulnerability system or application. This problem has grown exponentially in recent years because more companies and individuals are adopting cloud-based applications and services, so it is very easy to spin off a new virtual machine, container, or storage element in the cloud. And employees, they often put sensitive corporate information in cloud services that are often not closely monitored, and this introduces significant risk to the organization. Also, you should know these actors and their motivations, but in the end, it doesn't matter too much what you call these particular attackers. You need to be ready to prevent basic attacks as well as advanced attacks and treat them all with respect. All right, next let's talk about attributes of actors. So now that you have learned about different types of threat actors, let's talk about their attributes, intent, and motivation. The intent and motivation in most cases depends on the type of attacker. So for example, the motivation for hacktivists is typically related to protesting against something that they do not agree with, such as a political or religious belief or some type of human rights violation. Hacktivists tend to use disruption techniques, perform denial of service attacks, or deface websites. The intent of criminals is typically to make money. Nation-state actors can also have different motivations and intentions, and some nation-state actors just want to steal intellectual property from another nation or government or a corporation, and others want to cause disruption and bring down critical infrastructure. Another example is an internal actor or an insider who might be motivated by money offered by an external actor, either to steal information or to cause disruption. The internal actor could also be a disgruntled employee who leaves a backdoor either to later access confidential information or to trigger a DOS condition on critical systems and applications. Another difference between the different types of threat actors is the level of sophistication, capability, and the resources and funding. A disgruntled employee, a hacktivist, and an amateur unskilled attacker will not likely have the resources and funding that nation-state actors may have at their disposal. And criminal organizations in some cases may have more resources, money, and access to sophisticated exploits than hacktivists. Resources and funding, this refers to the tangible and intangible assets that a threat actor has at their disposal to conduct cyber attacks. Resources generally refer to the tools, technology, people, and information at the disposal of a threat actor. Funding is more specific to financial means that a threat actor can leverage to support their activities. Resources and funding can be limitations for unskilled attackers. However, an advanced nation state likely will have access to money that threat actors can use to finance their operations, are purchasing advanced hacking tools, hiring skilled individuals, or paying for servers and other infrastructure. And an active intrusion starts with an adversary targeting a victim. The adversary may use various capabilities along with some form of infrastructure to launch an attack against the victim. And capabilities can be various forms of tools, techniques, and procedures. And the infrastructure is what connects the adversary and the victim. All right, next let's talk about motivations. So motivations, this is the underlying reasons or drives that inspire an individual or group to act in a certain way. These reasons can be varied and complex, often extending beyond mere financial gain to include elements such as ideology, revenge, or the desire for recognition. And the array of possible motivations, each presenting unique challenges, necessitates a nuanced understanding of cybersecurity threats. And this table on your screen right here, this describes various motivations frequently observed with hacking and cyber attacks. All right, next let's talk about cyber warfare. So in cybersecurity, war, which is often referred to as cyber warfare, this encapsulates state-sponsored, politically motivated attacks on an adversary's information systems. And these attacks can be part of a larger national security and defense strategies or standalone actions intended to cause disruption, gather intelligence, or sabotage critical infrastructure. And security engineers must always consider the possibility of such sophisticated state-backed cyber attacks, which might involve advanced persistent threats, potentially demanding heightened security measures and advanced threat detection capabilities. And understanding the landscape of cyber warfare, its tactics and political implications is paramount for security engineers to defend their networks and sensitive data adequately. Also, cyber attacks during war times, like the ones witnessed in Ukraine, are an example of how the digital landscape can be used as a battlefield. In such cases, cyber warfare takes on a literal meaning, with attacks happening alongside or in lieu of traditional physical combat. And such cyber attacks can target critical infrastructure like power grids, communication networks, and government systems to cause disruption, create chaos, and impair the ability of a nation to defend itself or carry out its normal functions. And the Ukraine example shows the disruptive power of cyber warfare. So in 2015, a cyber attack on Ukraine's power grid left hundreds of thousands without electricity. And this is considered one of the first successful cyber attacks on a power grid. Security engineers studying such incidents understand that they must prepare for data breaches and attacks that aim to control, sabotage, or disrupt critical infrastructure. All right, so that was my video where you learned about threat actors, attributes of actors, motivations, and cyber warfare.